we get from a rich input. And it will take care of the format and the permissions behind the format, making it sure only the right output will be given. Overall, I think it was really good how you acted. What we can learn out of the examples is basically how we can work against or protect our site against XSS issues. As we all know, we all love automated tests, use scenarios, write some behat tests, stupid ones even, to put there a script tag to a random field, and if it gets executed, then the field allows XSS. Then you can think forward with more complex stuff, but you know, behavior-driven development says, let's test the biggest part of the functionality. Do not focus on the smallest edge cases. So basically the two examples with the script and the img tag could be used, and basically you cover, let's say, 95% of the bad cases that should be filtered out. If you get on the output any alerts using one of the examples, then the field allows it. Also check your filters and user roles, give the permissions to the trusted people who you trust. And yeah, do not give too many options to untrusted ones. The next type is the access bypass. Personally, I really like this issue. It's not so easy to discover if you just read the code or use some automated tests, but it allows a lot of things. So basically, it means user can access or can do something that he or she shouldn't, basically mustn't. Menu items, Drupal 7, Drupal 8, Drupal 9 will be the same, has to be defined what type of access we allow on that menu item. Let's say if we allow only highly trusted users based on a role or based on a permission or based on some custom logic to access that menu item, it has to be always correctly written, always correctly implemented to only get those people accessing those informations. Many access systems we have introduced back in Drupal 5, I guess, based on nodes, based on labeled entities, fields, views, all of the things are there. We made some new tests if it works. Yeah. So the first code example shows in Drupal 7 again a simple hook menu implementation which allows to access to that part if you have the administer my model. Okay? Do you think, any of you, with the card screens, there are any issues with this example? Or just it's just okay? It's okay for you, right? Okay. Yeah, the rest of the people I lost. Okay, fine. So basically, if it's an administer one, we consider it okay. Especially if we take a look on the security advisories, if an issue or if a security problem requires one of the key administer permissions in Drupal core, then the Drupal security team will not file any advisories, because if you have, or the attacker has that high permission, he can do much other things than just exploiting that specific issue. But the custom ones with, oh, by the way, it's green. The custom administer ones, I would highly encourage everyone to use as a restricted. So it can be super easily implemented when you create in Drupal 7 a hook permission. Just put there that restrict access, making it true because it's by default false. And in Drupal 8, in the YAML file, you just have to use the restrict. And basically it will not do anything else, just marking that specific permission on the permission page, that crazily long one, to not give it to any untrusted users. That's all. Here comes a second example. Okay, it's still Drupal 7. As far as I know, it can be sort of executed in Drupal 8. So we basically just select things from the node table, getting the title and the node ID based on the type of article, and we just give it back. Think about access bypass. Do we check anything here? And now let me see the cards. Okay, red. I see a green there. Okay. What do you think, why or where it can be okay? By the way, it's red. Why? Because there are cases when we can consider it fine. Okay, that was your answer. Fine. So when it comes to admin pages, that is okay. Because you protect the admin pages with different techniques, not allowing people to access that page. But we should use the node access tag. If we use it, even in admin pages, I would recommend to use this pattern everywhere because it just, makes things much more safe. If we use that, it makes sure whomever accessing that page where that code gets executed, it will take care of the user role and user permissions and will only show the nodes that has the access to the people. By the people. Here comes the last one, I guess. Yeah. This is Drupal 8 example, where we basically just define a path, which is a not found one, and we call a controller build 404 with a title, and the requirement will be accessed through, meaning we will show it to everyone. Okay? Yes, it's a 404 page. What do you think? Is it correct to give access to everyone or not? If it's a 404. Wow, you don't even want to show the 404 to Anonymous. Very good, by the way. I also wouldn't. But it's basically green. Okay. Overall, I still have with a hat. Cute, huh? Thank you. So what we can do against access bypass? Yet again, behat automated tests can protect a lot. But basically just manually we can visit node pages or different URLs that has a parameter that executes things in the backend and just visit it with different roles. Anything / node ID or entity ID or stuff like that. Because the node access and entity access systems somehow has to be triggered. That's the key. Menu definitions we talked about, and user access directly called with permissions could be used. Never forget node access and term access and some other stuff to add to your queries. SQL injection. As we all know, that's one of the most craziest, the most dangerous in Drupal, if we don't really count with the RCs, but that's fine. That's also a sort of injection, command injection. If we talk about the SQL injection, I think if you started with Drupal longer time ago, then you most probably remember back in 2014 when we got the so-called famously Drupalgeddon, that killed many sites because it was in the core an SQL injection and could have been triggered by Anonymous. So it was really a highly critical issue, had to be addressed in about, 7 hours, sort of. If you didn't do that, more? That's 2, okay. So if you didn't do that, the site and the server infrastructure could have been compromised or considered as compromised. Basically, overall injection vulnerabilities allows attackers to put things to your site that you shouldn't allow. Do not trust, again, any user input. The SQL injection itself allows to access the database and to do things there. Basically, in pure PHP, there are the statements. In Drupal, just use the built-in solutions with the API. we will check only one example. Yeah, only one example here with DB query. Okay, it's pretty old, but there is the user search parameter that we just put it there. What could go wrong with this example? If any, by the way. Is it green or, oh, there are some, okay, yeah, but you are a member. Okay, so red. Oh, okay, no, it's good. Let's change it, it's red. Because of the like. It doesn't use the DB like. So basically what has to happen here is to call the DB like on the parameter to make sure it doesn't have the special characters that can close the statement and open a new one. One of my favorite ones. Look the path. Yeah, nice one. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with your results. So thanks. What we can do against SQL injection, it's pretty easy. Just basically use the database API. If you just can, please do not use the DB query, especially because of migration issues. You will struggle to put it to Drupal 8, and also because in Drupal 8 it's already deprecated, it will disappear in Drupal 9. Filter all the parameters, check the queries in code, because that's the easiest way to identify any type of SQL injections. And basically there is one example that you can even use in Behat tests. In the URL, in parameters, wherever, just check that, and if it gives back other results than expected, then you have a serious problem. And you also can use curl with post requests and test your website. What we have as security improvements from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, as you saw, I show more Drupal 7 examples because Drupal 7 is less secure than Drupal 8. In terms of improvement, Peter Wallen had a very, very great session back in the last year in Vienna, where he basically went through all the improvements, at least the top 10 sort of, why Drupal 8 is more secure. I just have put there most of the issues that he mentions, and the link will be shared, but what is, for me, it just made so much sense with the CSRF token. So basically in Drupal 7 you always had to use, you know, the confirm form thingies and make sure the URL has that token, or if you totally customly implement something, you really had to dig in the code and implement your own way. In Drupal 8, forget all this craziness. It generates there automatically if you call the CSRF token to the URL, and basically it validates. Also, single statement finally execution got introduced in Drupal 8. Finally, the PHP format, all our night dreams got removed forever. Yeah, let's forget it. Click checking protection is in Drupal 8 core. So many things that we just dreamed about because of having a very long Drupal 7 life cycle still goes on. And still I know everyone uses Drupal 7 because it's just sort of easier to implement. But that's a reason why we should use and migrate everything to Drupal 8, because it's just more secure. What we also can do to increase our security awareness, take a look, okay, not on Wednesday evening if it's not a highly critical, but take a look on all the newly introduced advisories. When you see the advisory page, you always can access the code, even checking out the repository, or on the browser you can see what are the changes. And I encourage everyone, take a look. You'll see a few lines of changes usually, especially for Drupal 7 contribs, which are like having not so many tests. In Drupal 8, usually when there is a contrib that gets an update, tests are also added to make sure that functionality doesn't break anything anymore and doesn't allow the exploit anymore or security issue. So I would say whenever something comes out, on a Thursday morning when you start to pick up your job, take a look, few minutes, understand what happened, why that pattern should be used, and how it makes sure the site will be more safe. It will be never fully safe. Of course, there are bugs always, but take the time to learn by these advisories. I'm super happy to have one member present on my session from the Drupal security team, but also you have to know the advisories that are coming out only are for stable models. A few of you were here last night when we gave the awards for the Splash winners, and many models were introduced as a nominee for the title. Very nice work with Gothenburg to win it. But basically, most of those models that I juried were not on a stable version. What it means, if there is a security issue with that model, there will be never any security advisories, because the security team only takes care of the stable models. You have to opt in, you have to have a stable version, and if there is an issue, that issue will be reported, hopefully will be reported in the private queue. People will take care of it, and it will come out as an advisory with an update. No alpha, no beta, no gamma, all the Greek letters, no dev, nothing. And only one more important thing, if it's hosted on Drupal.org. I also remember out of the models in the Splash Award, there were like 2 or 3 that are hosted on GitHub. If there is an issue with it, it will go in GitHub. It will be public. So please make sure your Drupal contributed solutions are hosted on Drupal.org. After GitLab, I don't know how it will go. Maybe you can say something if you have some info about it. No? Yeah. But what is great by the whole team of 32, 33 people currently members, they always try to really help all the maintainers. So please, if you are a maintainer and you get an email by security.drupal.org, please respond. Please make sure your model will be updated, because after a while it will be unsupported, and it's overall not a good thing, especially for your clients. What I feel the Drupal security team sometimes do is like trying to do the things well, not falling down just like that cat. Please respect them. Please say a hi to them, to all of them. Please say a thanks to all of them, because they make sure all our Drupal versions, all our Drupal websites are enough safe. Sometimes they have to file a public service announcement. The release window will be longer. Last time it happened. Fine. Just say a thanks. That's all. What we also can do, and yet another cat or two, use security-related contrib models or services even. I just listed a few. I would like to suggest to, practice a little bit. Most of them are not meant to be on production sites, so do not go crazy and just install it on production. Doesn't really make so much sense. But for instance, DropGuard is a service which automatically updates the advisor, the modules, or even Drupal core. It has a price, okay, it's a commercial product, but still it worth the price. Because you don't have to wake up, especially if you are, for instance, from Australia or from Asia, during the night to take care of the website. Take a look on the last highly critical follow-up issue that we had in April. 5 hours, okay? There were only 5 hours, and already publicly known exploits were discovered in the wild. So if you are in one of the regions that is less represented by the window, use tools if you can't wake up at 4 a.m. to take care of your website. What is also nice, and basically that's my last slide, is sort of outdated, would be nice to be picked up by someone, is the best practices sniff for security by Coder model. Coder got a new maintainer like a year ago or so. I don't know how it goes nowadays. I also should take a look. But that one also makes sure your code is enough safe in a few steps. Could be good to use. Also the permission report, I really like that model because it just shows you what are the permissions that shouldn't be given to untrusted ones. And overall, if you have any questions, because that's my very last cat and slide, please ask me now or later today. I'm going to be here all day and also somewhere in a bar tonight. Or you can also contact me via Drupal.org contact form, or Twitter or Facebook. You can follow me, stuff like that.
And you're also on the Norwegian Slack, right?
Yes, and I am on the Norwegian Slack, even though I speak no Norwegian. But yeah, please ping me, feel free. I'm Tatar BJ. I was, and thanks for attending. I give back the cat.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, we were not allowed to ask questions.
Yeah.
No, I want to ask about just curiosity with all these headless application coming out and using the JSON API or GraphQL, and with React as an example. Is that like, how does that fit into the security part? You know, is it, you know, I just don't know. Like,
Third party, I would say. So like, if there are issues on the React side, for instance, you can think as an agency, for instance. I produce web services. The backend is Drupal, and the front end or another layer is not Drupal. If you know enough Drupal, you will only send safe output to the front end, and then the front end will just do what the front end should do. If you think about Drupal 7 and even before, how messy it was to send like this output here, and there were not really separations between front end and back end. You could have even written some DB queries in a TPF file which shouldn't be there at all. Then I would say in Drupal 8 and especially in the headless era, there are much more safe patterns. If you take care of all the outputs in the Drupal side as it should, then you should only focus on the front-end issues on the front-end side. So separations, MVC, things like that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just I'm just curious about like where that is going.
Another aspect, which is not really about the headless part, but about the third parties. Currently, but fix me if I'm wrong, the security team started to heavily work with third-party vendors, like last time, or maybe the time before.
Last time.
Yeah, also Symfony, but there was an issue in the core that got synchronized with the CK editor team. So there are many contributions across the globe and across open source systems, which is really nice. And I think that way will make sure all the connected services, and also like React, or also like other front-end frameworks, if they have people who are taking care of security there, I think it will go well if these people will start to collaborate and synchronize advisories and coming out together, being on the stage together, talking to each other, things like that. But I know it takes time, very much. Yeah. Anyone else for now? Yeah. There you go.
The pie chart you show with statistics over the different categories, I think that's just based on the reported security issues.
Say it again? I'm just looking for that slide.
Where it was like 50% cross-site scripting. I assume that, that's just based on the issues reported, right? On fixed.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of stats on
attacks. Ooh,
Yeah. In the wild, do you get any sort of reports on that? I assume not, but that would be interesting to.
Officially, I can't talk in the behalf of my employee, but obviously there are big organizations that are in the highlights to get attackers attention, and gets basically exploited. What happens in a higher level, like in a public sector or higher education field, basically they usually have an incident response team, which takes care of identifying the patterns and dispatching it to other teams to analyze it and to basically make sure the sites are or services are enough safe. What happens, at least in the European Commission, is basically we have that dedicated time on every Wednesday evening to decide, do we want to directly patch or update, or based on the criticality, based on our own adoption of the risk assessment, we decide, do we want to act at the moment, or we postpone and do it later in terms of saving time and not working under pressure. When it reaches a high criticality, like super high, very high, then we basically go crazy, no tests, we don't want to lose anything. Still, things happen. Usually things happen not with the country parts. If those are updated or up to date, your site could be considered safe. The problem comes with the custom part. That's the reason why I spend the time always to talk to others in a session like this or in other conferences, making sure people are just aware of security. We also have a program at the Commission which is Cyber Aware. They also go way further with all technologies, starting with Java, .NET, Perl, Python, and talking to the public how they can protect their IT equipment, also on hardware, also on software side. Basically, what you can do is focusing on the custom part, because those are always the critical one. If the custom is not publicly available, so like not that much open source, like in a private GitHub repo, then you are a little bit more fine, I would say. But still, it doesn't mean your interface will not face the internet and can't be defaced or exploited. Did I answer your question?
Not really.
Not
I was
really.
just thinking about statistics.
If numbers.
If someone is considering using Drupal or WordPress, for example, is there any numbers if you can look at types of attacks and number of attacks? How much do we know about that really? I mean, WordPress certainly has a more reputation of being less secure because people don't keep stuff updated, But,
look, I don't have numbers.
We don't get details on our sessions.
So those are.
Those would certainly be incomplete. I just wondering if you have any sort of real.
Those are sort of classified information. So if a site gets tagged, we don't go to the newsletters. We don't really want to let others, especially in the public sector, know. Yay, we got the tag and we did it well. We protect again the site, even though hundreds of millions of data got leaked. It didn't happen, so it's not like that. But still, we don't go there. If it gets discovered something bad happened, for instance, one of my role is about that, to face with these issues. Thanks God, only on Drupal. Otherwise, could be yet another job. So it's not so easy to handle communication, especially facing with the public. So no numbers, sorry. Anyone else for now, or okay?
Yeah, I was looking at the Project Gutenberg page, and it's alpha, but it says it's covered by the security advisory policy, even though it's not a stable release.
Yeah. Is it green? Is it green or yellow?
It's gray.
Or gray?
Right. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm just trying to understand what the
Mhm.
process is. So you, basically, Gutenberg is working with the
Mhm.
security team before they even release a stable.
Then I would turn again to the member if
Okay.
you know anything, Stella.
It's not covered by the security team, it is not a stable release, and if it's a module that's been created or released this year, or I can't remember the exact date, you also have to opt in to security team coverage. Older modules before that policy came in place, as soon as you make stable, you're covered. And you can't opt out once you opt in.
No, because I really like Gutenberg, and I was just wondering if it's
It's not covered by the security team, it's not stable.
okay.
At the moment, yeah. But I heard you are working hard to make it a stable version. I think it's just nice to contribute. The project is amazing. Got 2 Splash Awards. Amazing job that you overall do. I think if it will go well, sooner or later it will be covered if they release a stable one. Okay, thank you again.